Hello and welcome back to our Zombie War series. This time we are going to implement a multi-phase boss for our game. Let's get going. Again, before we start to implement the boss, there are a few bugs that we didn't notice during the last episode. If we run our game and go to the overworld, we can try to kill 10 enemies before we die. Yeah, now the door opens, but if we die right now and we go back, well, the first thing is that the player will die right away, and the other thing is that the door is open. So those are the two things we need to fix. And for the door, we go to the overworld, and here where we check not the enemies. Yeah, when the health is under 0, so basically when the player dies. Here we need to reset the enemies killed variable so that the door will be closed once we go back to the level and the enemies killed isn't more than 10 when we go back. So we just set value of enemies killed to be 0, and we do that before we go to the shop level. And then for the health, well, it's just that the player doesn't get healed when he respawns. So we can go to the shop event sheet, and here on the start of layout, we can just add a new action where we set the health to be the same as the max health and press done. And now if we play, we go here. First let's try to kill 10 enemies before we die. Well, I died before I got 10 enemies, but again, now we can play again because we don't die right away. And yeah, here we have the door open. Now if we die, we go back, it will still be closed. So now it's working like it's intended. But next, we want to draw our boss. So let's open the Pisco, which is right over here on the monitor. And now I want to make the boss to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going to make the size to be 62 by 62. And I'm going to make 2 frames, or like basically they are going to be animations, but I'm going to make them here as frames. So I'll see you again when I've done that. Okay, now I have the first frame, and I can just click here to add a new frame. And well, actually, I'm going to duplicate this frame. And here I'm just going to make a few modifications so that I will turn this to be a cyborg zombie. So it will be a huge plot twist in our game that the final boss will be a cyborg and not normal zombie. Ooh. Well, I see you again when I've done that. Okay, now we have the both frames here, but I'm going to export them individually. Again, selected frame export, download it and put it to our boss arena. Here. Now let's rename this to be, well, boss, and then open here. Let's make a new animation. Let's call it cyborg, and the default one will be zombie. And here, now if we export this one, oh, that's the wrong one. Here, we can just drag and drop it right over here, and now we have basically two animations for our boss, even though they are only one frame. Oh, and one thing we need to do is to put them on loop, and that's everything for that. And now we should make a state machine for our boss, as we want to make it a multi-phase, so that it will have multiple phases when we fight against him. And the way I want to do it this time is that during the first phase, the boss will be just like any other zombie, that it will just follow the player. But then in the second phase, we will reveal that it will be a cyborg. So at that point, I want to make it invincible against bullets and make it poop out explosive barrels so that we can damage him through explosions. And during the final phase, we are going to just make it the same as the second phase, but we will add guns for our boss. So I think that will be interesting boss fight for our game. And so the state machine, if you're not familiar about with machines, state machines are basically a tool that we can define that what kind of state the boss is in right now, and have defined the transitions between different states, so that from specific state we can transit to only to the other states that we are defined that we can transit to. So let's see how we can do that. And first, we want to make a new global variable and call it state. It will be string, and let's say initial value is zombie. Oh well, let's call it phase 1. And what this will be is we use this string to tell us what state the boss is currently using. And then we need to define what states we want to use, and we do it by making a new condition where we check or compare two variables. The state is equal to phase 1, and that's basically our first state. Then we can just copy it 2 times, and then change the phase 1 to be phase 2, and again phase 1 to be phase 3. Now we have all the states that we need for the boss. Well, basically we are going to implement also dead state, but we don't need any logic for that, so we don't need to make a check for it, that if it's dead currently, then we do nothing. We just check that none of the other states are on, so that we know that it's dead. So, and next we need to define the transitions between the states, and I want to do the transition based on the health of the boss. So first let's make another global variable, and it will be called boss health. Its number, let's make it maybe 500. I think that's around a good number for a boss health. And then we are going to make sub events for all of these. And the first one, well, we are just going to check if the boss health is less or equal to, let's say, 350. Then we will set the state to be phase 2. Like that. And again for the phase 2, well, we can just copy this and change the health to be under 100. Then we change the state to be phase 3. And well, let's make it in the, oh, not like that, just gonna copy it. And in the phase 3 we check if the boss health is 0 or less. Then we're going to make the state to be dead, like so. And that's basically what a simple state machine is. That when we start the game, our state will be in phase 1, so everything that every logic that will be under this condition right over here will be run. And when the boss's health is under 350, so basically the state 1 is when the boss's health is between 500 and 350. And when it goes under that, we set the state to phase 2, and the phase 2 will be from 350 to 100. And again the phase 3 will be from 100 to 0. And now we just need to implement all the logic that will happen in the different states. And the first thing we need for the boss, as we want it to follow the player, is to add behavior for it, the one called Pathfinding. And here let's keep max speed 200. Let's make rotate speed maybe 500. And yeah, I think that's fine. Next, we do the finding path exactly the same way as we did for the other zombies. And this we can do outside of any state because it will be in every single state, so we don't have to copy and paste it inside every state. We just make here outside of them, so every one of them will use it. So the first one was for every x seconds. I think it was 0.02 in the other zombies. Well, we can check it if we want. And yeah, every 0.02 seconds we find the path to the player, and we go back here, and here we pick the boss and find path, and then find our player and the x coordinates, and then The y is of course the y coordinate, and that's everything we need to do for the finding path. Then we check if we found the path on path found condition. Then we just call the move along path action. And that's basically everything for the pathfinding. We can try to run the game and see that the boss will follow us. It's actually faster than us. Maybe we should make it a bit slower. Let's say 150. Let's see how it's now. I think that's better speed. Now we can outrun him. At least a little bit. Yeah. That's the movement. Then next we want to make damage calculation for the phase 1. And it's basically just we check if the boss is collision with bullet, then we decrease the health or the boss health with the player's damage. So condition boss on collision with another object, and here bullet. Press done. Then we add an action where we subtract from boss health the amount of damage we have. And then, of course, we want to destroy the bullets. Like so. And we can actually check it already, but for the testing purposes I'm going to put the damage to be, let's say 15, so it's quite high, so we don't have to be shooting him for during the all day. So now we can see it first destroyed the bullets, but now it doesn't because the state changed to be in phase 2, and we have nothing in the phase 2 yet other than we check if the health is under 100, then we go to phase 3. So the transition is working properly. And one more thing we want to do here is to add a condition called or the sub event, and here we want to trigger once while we set the animation for the boss to be the zombie. And this is basically just for the occasion that the player is once died for the boss and comes back. So then the boss might have the other animation playing. So we want to trigger it once we have the phase 1 again. And actually one more thing we want to add on start of layout. And here we want to set the, well, let's just copy this to here, and we want to set the state to be phase 1. And again, this is the same thing as the setting the animation, as if the player is once been fighting the boss and dies and then comes back, the state might be in the phase 2 because we are using the global variable, so it doesn't get reset if we go to another level or layout. So that's why we need to set it to phase 1 again on the start of the layout. And actually just for the to be sure, I want to set the boss health to be the 500 also at the start of the layout, as the boss's health is also global variable. And with this, the first phase should be done. And well, we can again try to play the game. With our huge damage we can get through the health quite quickly, and now it's in the phase 2 as the bullets will go through them, or through that boss. And next we are going to implement the phase 2, and it was the phase that it starts to poop out the barrels. So, well, first let's do the damage calculation for it, and it's going to be oh, well, let's put not like that. Let's put that there and delete that. So now the bullets will get destroyed if it hits the boss, but it won't lose any health for it. And the damage calculation itself is when the boss is on collision with an explosion. And here, let's subtract from the health, let's say the damage times 3. So as the power of the explosion will also increase if you have a higher damage value, but of course we want it to be more effective as the single bullet, so we make it 3 times the damage. And then, well, of course, so that we can damage it, we need to make it poop out the barrels, so we can just make a new sub event where, let's say, every 2 seconds we will create a object, and we create the barrel on layer 1, of course. Oh, and then the x coordinate will be svr underscore what svr underscore boss dot x, and the y coordinate, of course, the boss's y coordinate, like so. And one thing we also want to do is set the Z order so that the barrel is on bottom, so it won't be on top of the boss when it gets created. And one more thing we want to do here is to change the animation to be the cyborg one. So we can just copy this one, add it right here, and set the zombie to be cyborg. And now we should have clear visual indication that we are in the phase 2. And I think this should be everything for the phase 2, so we can try that. First we get it to the phase 2, it starts to poop out the barrels. Then we can, of course, we can shoot it, but the health won't go down. Then we can just try to damage it through these barrels. But of course, now we don't have any clear indication other than like that the bullets will go through the boss when we are in the 3rd phase. Oh, and the other thing is that it doesn't poop out the barrels anymore, as the logic is only in the phase 2. Yeah, that's everything for the phase 2, and now for the phase 3, we can actually copy all of these 3. So where we destroy the bullets, we make it poop the barrels and it takes damage from the barrels. Just drag and drop them right there, as we want it to be the same. But the only difference is that we want to add guns for the boss. So we can do it by, well, first we need to add 2 image points for our boss. And you might have guessed that the names for them will be gun point 1 and gun point 2. And here we want to click the apply to all animations, so it will get right here also. So now in the cyborg animation we have only the gun point 1 as we pressed the apply for the all animations button. And like that, then we need to change the position for them to be here on the hands. And I think, yeah, the position didn't change. So again, we apply it for the all animations. Then go back. Then the next thing, I'm just going to use the same sprite as the rifle. So I'm going to make a clone from that and rename to be boss rifle. And then I'm going to again clone that, and it can be a boss rifle too. And now we basically just write the same things that we write or made right over, not in here, it's in the global mechanics, right over here. So we just set the angle of the rifle to be, well, basically the same as the zombies angle, and then the position to be the same as the gun point in the boss's hand. So here we have the empty sub event. Here we choose the every tick, so we can do it all the time. Then we choose, well, the boss rifle, and we set the angle to be the same as the boss.angle, so that the rifle will point straight in front of the boss. And then we want to copy that. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and then press R. We change the boss rifle to be the boss rifle 2, and that's everything for the setting the angle. Then the position. Let's take the first boss rifle, then find the set position action, and then here we take the boss's image point X, and we choose the first image point, and then we do the same with the Y, like so. And then again we can copy and paste that. We press R, change the boss rifle to be the boss rifle 2, and here we need to change it to be the second image point, so that it will be in the different hand. And now if we play the game, we should see that once we get it low enough. Wait, why isn't it pooping? Oh, we didn't copy that, we just put it onto the phase tree. Now it should work. Let's try that again. Okay, now it's pooping. Let's try to get the guns to appear. I think one more. No. Two more. No. Three more. Wait, still. Really? What? Oh. The thing is that we need to have the rifles right over here on the scene so that the boss will use them. So let's try that again. Okay, that's the first phase. Now it's the second phase. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe one more. No. Oh, we died. But you saw that the guns appeared to the hand of the boss. So basically the last thing we need to do is to make it shoot. And again, it's exactly the same thing as right over here, but we just don't do it every time we click, but we do it maybe, let's say, every 3 seconds or so. So here new sub event by pressing B. Then go to system every X seconds. And for now, let's put it 3. We can test it and change it later. Then we want to create an object. We create the bullet in the layer 1, and the X coordinate is boss rifle dot image point X, and the image point will be 1, and the same for the Y. And because we copied the rifle, we already have the shooting point right here, right over here, so we don't have to do anything inside the sprite. Okay, and then we want to take the bullet and set the angle of motion. And again, let's change it to be boss.angle, so it will shoot straight in front of him. And well, that's basically because the guns will point straight to in front of the boss. So if we would put here the angle between the shooting point and the player, then the bullet might start to shoot in a really weird angle. So that's why we use the boss's angle right here and don't calculate the angle between the shooting point and the player. Like that. And then we want to copy these two and do the same for the boss rifle too. And now everything should work. And again, for the testing purposes, so that we get faster to the last phase, let's put 20 to be our damage. That was the first one. Okay, now the boss will shoot also while pooping out. And the thing is that the boss is quite quick currently, but for the progression of the game, let's keep it like that, so that the player needs to buy a few speed upgrades to be able to outrun the boss. Like that. Yeah. But actually, there's one more thing I noticed when we died. Let's try to die quickly. Like when we are here, dead, our health UI will show 0 instead of the correct health, which should be 3 at this point. And I think the problem is that here we set the health to be the max health, but we don't update the UI. So once again, not the system, we find the health amount text, we set the text to be health and press done. And this is really normal in game development, that you just noticed, oh, that doesn't work. Well, let's try to figure out why, and then we fix it. And once again, let's die quickly. And check it out. Yeah, now it looks good. So that's basically all the logic for our boss. But the one more thing we need to do is to add the damage calculation for the player. So we can just add new condition right over here where the player is on collision with the boss. We press done. So now during the first phase we can we can get damaged. And like so. Yeah, that's everything for this time. And during next episode we are going to implement the health bar for the zombie or the boss, so that the player can see how much health it still has. So I'll see you then.